So we're getting the rally that I predicted, 68, 69,000 area. We may go as high as a 70 or 71,000. I think the peak over here was 71,800 or so, something like that. The peak over here, again, I predicted the rally to 70,000. We hit 70,000 on the nose. So again, watching to see if we still out. I told you over here, again, we've sold off, rebounded, we got rejection, or to sell off again. I told you to be watching for a divergence before we ever formed it. I told you that, again, if the rally fails, could see that happen. It did. Now and I told you about this divergence. I told you about the sell-off here before it ever happened. Again, we had warning signs. And then the rising wedge broke down. The rising wedge pattern there with the divergences here in the 4-hour time frame. Now, again, I've talked about a divergence developing in this most recent price action. That's now happened. It has now happened. The RSI is making a lower high. Bitcoin's moving to a higher high. Just under 69,000. I believe it was 69,900 and something. It was just a few dollars underneath 69,000. I don't believe we tagged it yet. We're at my target level. And then the resistance zone is directly overhead. I think the divergence will complete, and I think we'll start seeing a turn. You got it right here on the 4-hour chart of the RSI. You got it here on the MACD. And again, that bullish divergence that's set up there as well. The bearish divergence over here. I talked about those at the time. I talked about the divergences back over here. The bullish ones and the bearish ones, again, likely setting up a bearish divergence, get everybody sucked in. And again, that's the way it works. I told you we would see a short squeeze. Again, bouncing off Bitcoin's average price, a short squeeze. Right here, I told you again, I thought we'd form a bullish divergence. We had a bull flag. The bull flag broke out, and again, have this rally. But look what's happening. Look at Pring parameter. Again, I told you I thought I stuck to my guns, and I told you I thought 68,000 would be reached, and probably to 69,000 for another test. I think we're going to form a divergence. Price is going higher above this peak, but Pring parameter is not. You're likely going to see a divergence develop here and complete the shorter time frame in the more recent price action, the divergence on the RSI and the MACD, and then the larger divergence here on Pring parameter. Being told there's no way that can happen. Same people that told us these other sell-offs weren't going to happen. No way that can happen. Reading the comments on social media today, we're so tired of this trading range, so tired of the distribution, saying, who in their right mind is bearish right now, and they're all trying to outbull each other. And I've been calling the moves back and forth because I really don't care which way Bitcoin goes. But the Moon Boys and the Moon Boy followers and, the herd, they're all on one side right now. Nobody believes that Bitcoin can drop. Just like in November of 2021, when I called the top, Bitcoin in November 2021, and I called the very day of the top with the negative divergence because some amazing signals that were forming at the 2021 top. I told Bitcoin's never dropping below 60,000 again. And Bitcoin, and if you didn't believe, and everybody said, the fourth quarter, it's going to be so bullish. Well, the fourth quarter, Bitcoin topped out and collapsed. And it lost in just a short amount of time. It dropped 52%. Over here, we saw a drop of 29% in 8 days, 8 sessions. I'm just telling you what to be looking for. I'm telling you what needs to happen to turn my signals back to bullish. If my signals did turn back to bullish, I will turn back to bullish. Weekly time frame. Signals have been going back and forth in the daily time frame, going back and forth from bullish to bearish, trading it back and forth because we've been in this trading range. Directional move is about to happen. Who is going to win, the bulls or the bears? So I'm watching for a larger divergence on Pring parameter that I think will complete probably by next week. For these divergences here in the most recent price action to complete here, very, very soon. Either we're going to see this complete over the weekend or on into early next week. So the bulls can clear all these levels. So we'll be watching. Momentum is bullish in the weekly time frame. I predicted that would happen when, again, I told you we'd rally up to 68,000, down at the 52,000 area. I talked about this for a long time, but the trend is still bearish. Momentum is bullish, momentum line, momentum here with the arrow, but the trend is still bearish. You got to flip that around. You got to flip momentum here in the positive territory to have a breakout. If we start clearing these levels, the background still red, you got to flip this around. The bulls can do that here in the weekly time frame. That'd be positive, but right now the bears are still in control. The signal is still bearish. Momentum's positive, but the trend is still bearish. Again, you got to see momentum right here go into positive territory to change the trend. When we changed the trend over here, that happened. We had a reversal bar. You got to see that happen. If we get that right now, that's going to be bullish. Change my mind about Bitcoin if my signals, which are correct, turn back to bullish. Right now, they're still bearish. If we get rejection right about this area, then again, they could remain bearish. We'll be watching to see how it unfolds. The rainbow cloud in the weekly time frame, still bearish. We've come right up to it. If we can clear it, stay above it, on a weekly basis, then that's going to be bullish. Then we got to see the balance of power go positive. It's still in negative territory. So again, the bears are in control. The critical mass line, it's gone sideways, but it's red. Okay, we're above it, but it's red. It's got to flip back to blue. We got to hold above it. It's got to start rising and not go flatlined. Again, we're at the moment of truth. If the bulls can flip the signals, then that'll be bullish. Then the signals have to remain that way and just get a false breakout. But if we get rejection at these levels, 68, 69,000, and we turn back down and signals remain bearish, then the bears will remain in control. So you see what I'm saying? We're at the moment of truth. Again, we've had a 33% drop. We've gone in this trading range, the sideways trading range, between 49,000 and 73,000. Who's going to win? Are the bears going to win and we break down out of this trading range? Are we going to break up and the bulls are going to win? Who's going to win? The bulls and bears as they fight it out for control. And the bulls flip the weekly signals back to bullish. We'll see if it happens. If it does, then that's bullish. You got to remain that way. Likely to fail. Now we are getting a 9-count sell signal. As I'm making the video on Saturday, we completed the 8 bar, so far being the high of the count. I'll show you it up close in a moment. We're getting the 9 count. You see this little P9? Means it's a perfected sell signal. Okay, we've just overthrown this level. We're right at 69,000, and my line moved on me just a little bit. We were just under 69,000 right there. And in this. Now, again, as I told you, we might go to the 70, and I've told you this all along. We might go to the 70, 71,000 level, which is a resistance zone, and overthrow this and get a false breakout and still turn down. Or you can get the real breakout, a real breakout. The bulls can pull all of this off. It's a tall order, or can just fail at the 68, 69,000 area. Again, we've had 8 attempts to get above 69,000. We may attempt it again right now, as I've talked about. Look at the 9 count that's forming. These counts, they show price exhaustion. Over here we had it. We pulled back and we went a little bit higher and then we topped out and then we have all this volatility. Here it marked a bottom. Okay, right after the bottom bar, we got it. Over here we got the top, and right after that we got the 9 count completing. Over here, it gave us a bounce, and then we went a little bit lower. Over here, we got it, and we went a little bit higher. We pulled back, we got it, we pulled back, and we went a little bit higher. Over here, again, got it, went a little bit lower. So again, sometimes it marks the turning point here. When NASDAQ, when it peaked in July, it was the very bar. Sometimes you go a little higher, and it plays out. And again, the 9 counts, they can just give us pullbacks, like in an uptrend after a move has been made, or they can produce reversals. Now, we've had these mark very close to tops and bottoms. Not perfectly, but very, very close. The S&P got a 9 count on Friday. The Dow got an 8 of a 9 count. It could complete the 9 count by Monday. It was closed over the weekend. And then Bitcoin is going to get a 9 count here on Saturday. We may get the count and go a little higher. We may have the count mark the peak. Maybe the 8 bars will have the count, maybe the 9 bar will be, or maybe we go a little higher, but it is showing price exhaustion in this area. Counts are not perfect, but can be associated with the turns. This certainly was. This certainly was. This was. This was. And this was. Again, we're now forming, and if we don't clear the 70, if we don't clear the peak over here at 70,000, and break the downtrend. We're still on a downtrend. Do you realize that? We still have a series of lower highs, lower lows, and lower lows. And the bull here has to be cleared. So again, we may just stall at the 68, 69,000. That's why I told you I thought we were going back up there to form a divergence with the S&P 500. May stall there, might get a false breakout to 70, 70,000, or a real breakout. The bulls can pull it off. I don't think that they're going to be able to. My signals turn back to bullish, I will turn back to bullish in the weekly time frame. Right now, I've been turning back and forth from bullish to bearish here in the daily time frame as the signals have been changing. And over here, I predicted all of this would happen. Gee, I got it right. The Moon Boys told us the sell-off was never going to happen. I told you it was. Over here and over here. I could tell you what I think. I think the rally's going to fail, and I think we're going to turn, and I think, you know, it's not going to be Uptober. It's going to be, you know, Droptober. It's going to be Shocktober. They're going to be in shock. Now, if my signals turn back to bullish, then again, it's going to be bullish, and I will let you know if that happens. The Moon Boys are now telling us, oh, this is the bear trap. And again, if my signals turn back to bullish, then it will be also the ones that told us it wasn't going to happen. You know, and we're seeing distribution. Could we see distribution here again and continue the downtrend? Good chance we do. Can't flip the weekly signals back to bullish. Bar 8 is the high of the count. Here it is up close. Bar 8 is the high of the count. So again, we have a perfected signal. Even if 9 is not, bar 8 or 9 has to be the high of the count. But if 9 is to complete, we got to be above the bar from 4 bars ago. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got to close above this bar for the 9 bar. That's probably going to be the case on Saturday. The question is, do we start seeing an immediate turn, or do we go a little bit higher above 69,000, maybe up to the 70, 71,000 area? But I told you I thought it would be 60, 69,000 or so that we would stall out around. And again, I expect that that's going to be the case. And just quickly, I told you about the bullish signals at these bottoms. Okay, I told you about it over here. The bullish signals. We had the little momentum bottoming signal here, the little arrow, and then we had the buy signal. I told you we could see that mark a bottom, or we could pull back and test this low. We didn't get the pullback. We just started going, and then we saw the momentum line turn bullish, and then we saw again warning signs that hey, we were going to get this pullback. I talked about the divergences and so forth, and again we came back. We formed negative divergence on indicators and then a bullish divergence on indicators. That gave us this bottom here. We saw signals turn bearish, momentum line turn back to bullish. You see the little blue arrow there, but back and forth, bearish to bullish to bearish to bullish with the arrows, and then the line turned back to bullish. It's still bullish. So again, I'll be watching for the momentum line to turn. This is warning of a possible top is coming, but I don't have any other topping signals there as of yet. We'll see if we start getting a topping signal for momentum here, or any kinds of sell signals like we got back over here. But amazing signals back and forth. I've talked about these at great length and detail. The trend signals are bullish in the daily time frame. The momentum signals are bullish. I talked about all this. Balance of power, bullish right here. So bearish in the weekly time frame. Do we get a breakout or do we get a fake out? My signals in the weekly time frame all turning back to bullish. I'll start turning back to bullish. That's bullish. I'll turn back to bullish. But right here, again, my signals have been going back and forth, and I've been going from bullish to bearish as my signals turn, playing some of these swings back and forth here. Signals have been doing an outstanding job. Again, calling a bottom over here, calling the bottom over here. We predicted the rally to 70,000, and then this big drop and another bottom, and back and forth, back and forth. And I've talked about this at great length and detail. And again, over here, predicted this sell-off, but then I told you we were going to bottom here because I still stuck to my guns and said we were going to 68,000. I was right. So again, I think we're going to stall out and reverse here. Wrong about that. Then the bulls need to prove themselves and turn my signals, which are correct, back to bullish in the weekly time frame. If the daily signals here turn back to bearish and the weekly signals remain bearish, then that's going to be really, really problematic for the bulls. Another thing to consider is Ethereum is not even above the 100 period, not even clearing overhead resistance here. And again, continues to struggle. Not back up at the highs, near the highs there, to test the highs as Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is back testing the peak of the year. We're nowhere near the peak of the year on Ethereum. Another problem is with the March peak with Bitcoin. Bitcoin moved to a new high and then it turned down. Ethereum did not. It did not move above the 2021 high. So you have this massive divergence between the two. Now, if you watch the video all the way through, you'll see that we're getting a 9 count for the Saturday session, and we're at this upper Bollinger Band. So again, this is another problem, is we're pushing up and hitting this upper Bollinger Band. That's where we've stalled out back over here. That's where we stalled out here, over here, and over here. We corrected sideways and then went up, and we're just under it. Here we're at it, similar to the peak here, the peak over here. But we're forming negative divergence. Now, I think this negative divergence is going to play out by next week. We're going to see this divergence complete. Bitcoin maybe peaking over the weekend or on it in next week at some point. I think it will, and this move will fail. This is the reason why I predicted the rally. Just like I predicted the rally over here, we had this bullish divergence on the MACD and the RSI. And I told you we're hitting Bitcoin's average price, and we bounced. Had the rally, even with this pullback. I told you MACD was firming up at that low, and I thought a divergence would develop here and on the RSI. See the divergence on the 4-hour chart. You can see the divergence on the stochastic and other indicators with momentum here, and that gave us this rebound, and that's why I told you I thought we'd get back above the 200 and kept saying it over and over again. Now been proven correct, just like I think this divergence is going to complete. Okay, and I think it's going to give us a turn down. Now, here's one of the problems with the rally. The S&P and Bitcoin in the upper window, the S&P in the lower window, they're diverging from one another. The S&P got a 9 count on Friday. Bitcoin is getting a 9 count on Saturday. Bitcoin is making a series of lower highs. The S&P is making a series of higher highs. They're diverging. This is what happened back at the 2021 top. This is what happened at other turning points, like back in 2017 at the top. They diverged here. They had the larger divergence before the peak over here on the S&P 2018, and the next leg down, a little hard to see on this chart, but the next leg down there on Bitcoin, where it ended up getting the final leg dropping 84%. The divergences over here, over and over. You get these immediate divergences, and then you get the larger one. Here we got the immediate divergence going on there, a couple of them, and then the larger one now developing multiple points. This is what happens at tops. Now that has to change. That's why I think Bitcoin already peaked in March, and probably why completing the topping process now as the S&P makes new highs, which again I've been predicting would happen, that the S&P would go make new highs as NASDAQ filled the gap at 20,400. Following along, you've been hearing me say that for months. This is very problematic for a bullish case. So is the dollar. Now, one reason why I predicted the rally to 68,000, 69,000 is because I thought we'd form a divergence on the RSI. RSI is now moving to new highs. We don't have to form a divergence, but we could. The bottom over here, it was just marked by this extreme. Their turning points have had divergences. So again, I'll be watching to see what happens here. Forming one on the MACD. And the $64,000 question, are we now breaking out of a bull flag pattern? Or again, I've talked about these bull flag patterns being associated with tops over and over again. I've shown you the chart. So again, we're going to be watching to see what happens here, especially since we're getting a 9 count here on Saturday. And again, forming that negative divergence on the MACD. Rally I predicted has now happened. Now it's a waiting game. Can the bulls regain control or not? Just quickly, in order for Bitcoin to move into a new bull market, it's trying to break this trend line right here. This is Bitcoin in the lower window. This is Tether in the upper window, okay? Tether is not breaking this trend line and horizontal support. It's resting right on that support level, okay? In order for Bitcoin to have a breakout, we got to take out that level and drop. For a bigger move, eventually we'd have to take out this trend line right here. Watching as the bulls and bears fight it out. Can the bulls flip the weekly signals bullish? If they can, then that's going to be bullish. Can they take out these trend lines right here with Tether, get our big move up? again, if we bounce right here, then that would be suggesting another coin top and a fake breakout because we got above this horizontal resistance and we're now back testing it. And as we're doing so, we're hitting this trend line. So again, there's got to break down for a bigger move higher. This trend line is called all the tops with Bitcoin, and we had it reach there with the March high, which again, we are still in a downtrend. We still have a series of lower highs. So are the bulls going to pull it off or not? Now, the dollar has broken out. It broke out back over here on the weekly chart. It back tested that move, the broken trend line, and now it's had the surge breaking out of this bullish falling wedge right here. And the bullish divergences have played out on the chart. Here's Bitcoin down here. Bitcoin at the moment has a positive correlation with the dollar. At the moment it does. If the dollar starts getting rejection here at the 200, or if it pulls back a little bit and forms a negative divergence and then it starts pulling back sharply, we've had a breathtaking rise for the last 3 weeks with the bounce off the 200-week moving average. Again, short term, they have a positive correlation. They could both go down. Eventually, the dollar is going to go up. If it does, breakout, that's going to be problematic for Bitcoin. So I'm watching the dollar. If the dollar starts collapsing, Bitcoin could too for the short term if the positive correlation continues. But again, eventually we'll go back to a negative correlation. Right now it's a positive correlation. You can see that right here, that the correlation between the two, it's in positive territory. So again, they have a positive correlation at the moment. I told you the dollar would surge, and again, that's problematic for Bitcoin. Even though it's rising, again, it does have a long-term negative correlation with the dollar. The dollar is bouncing off horizontal support in the monthly time frame, long-term horizontal support, and our 50-month moving average. 50-month moving average, and again, the 200-week moving average in the weekly time frame. So major support levels. The dollar starts heading up to the upper end of this channel, which I think it's going to, then Bitcoin's going to move in the opposite direction because they do have a long-term negative correlation. In 2021, the first top with Bitcoin in early 2021, it bottomed here, broke the trend line, and bounced off support. The second peak came when we got above the 20-month moving average, and then Bitcoin peaked again, the dollar surged, and Bitcoin collapsed. If we get this again, then and form this channel and form this larger divergence, then again, Bitcoin should go sharply lower. Look on the weekly chart here. Again, we broke the downtrend. We back tested it. We found support at horizontal support and what? Our 200-week moving average and that 50-month moving average in the monthly time frame. We formed a bullish divergence. We've had the surge to guess where? I've been talking about this, showing you this chart, this trend line right here. Now, if Bitcoin is going to have a bull market, we got to get above this level, and then this trend line right here, if I exclude the shadow, this trend line, again, they intersect right there. So we've got to be able to clear this level. We're probably going to get a pullback because Bitcoin right now has a positive correlation. When the dollar starts moving down, Bitcoin will likely turn down, and so will the stock market. They currently have a positive correlation short term. Longer term is a negative correlation. I could see the RSI come back here and get a higher low. The diversion's already marked the bottom at the 200-week and the back test of the trend line. So again, the dollar pulls back and then starts clearing this level even further, be extremely bearish for Bitcoin. If the dollar comes back and back tests this trend line and we get dropped back below the 200, take out support, we see the dollar begin to collapse below this level, that's going to be very bullish for Bitcoin. So a push higher is bearish for Bitcoin, but right now a pullback, I expect a pullback, positive correlation, so Bitcoin could top, and they could top close to one another. But again, if the dollar starts collapsing after that, taking out this level, be bullish for Bitcoin. Eventually, they're going to move back, moving in opposite directions. When Bitcoin peaked, first peak in 2021, we bottomed over here, okay? And then the second peak cleared the 20-month moving average, and here we cleared the 200-week moving average, and you cleared horizontal resistance, and the dollar soared and Bitcoin collapsed. We're bouncing off the 200-week moving average, so just things to be paying attention to. Well, I predicted the rally Again, it could fail if we end up not being able to stay above the 20-week moving average, the RSI staying above the 50. We did get back above those levels. The last time we tried to get back above the 20 over here, and over here, we got rejection here, we got above it, here we got rejection at it. So again, you got to stay above that 20-week moving average. You got to stay above the 100-day moving average in the daily time frame. Now, a lot of chop in here. Now, prior to that, we had moves that were very bullish, holding above the 20-week, holding above 50. Other moves that held consistently below 50, back and forth, back and forth. This is a lot of chop right here. So again, we're going to be watching closely as the bulls and bears fight it out. Do we get another failure on the RSI? The MACD, we got the RSI in positive territory above the 20, it failed. So do we see something like that here, or can we stay above 50 on the RSI? Can we stay above the 20-week moving average? That's what needs to happen for the bulls to regain control, and then we got to see everything turn back to bullish. If we look at the MACD, it's trying to firm up. We are getting a slightly positive number, just under half, not even at a full one reading yet. It is just a half here. This is the weekly time frame. So if we can get a 20-50 remaining here without failing, right now we have it, firm up here, and you could get the breakouts I've been talking about and flip all the weekly signals back to bullish. That's going to be bullish. The move fails. Back over here, the MACD tried to turn up. Look at that. Tried to get above the 20, and it failed, and this followed. Okay? Now, whoops, wrong one right here. We were in negative territory. Here we're still in positive territory. Here we'd gone negative. We turned up and we had this run up here, but it ended up forming the top. I'm going to be watching. Can the MACD get above the signal line? It's trying to do it right now this week. Can it get above there and stay above the signal line? Can we stay above the 20-week? If you can stay above the 20-week, that's bullish. If the MACD can remain above the signal line, that's a sign of strength. Again, we're watching as the bulls and bears fight it out. If the weekly signals can all turn back to bullish, now Bitcoin is up 8.89% for the week. Can it remain that way, or do we see a reversal before the week ends or on into next week? Again, here you had a strong bar here, but then you tried to get things back to bullish, and then it ended up failing. So again, we'll be watching. Last two times we failed at the 20. This time, will we be successful with above it? And I'm back talking about the best thing in the world, Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is just a few hours into the Saturday session. I have a really important video to share with you, so make sure you watch the video all the way through. Bitcoin has rallied up to 68,000. We're just underneath 69,000. We were just a couple of bucks underneath it at the highs of the Friday session. Oh, gee, who told you that was going to happen? Bitcoin's doing exactly what I told you it would do. Now we're going to be watching. Now the moment of truth as the bulls and bears fight it out for control. The bulls going to be able to clear this area. Right now it's trying to clear this trend line right here. And I've drawn another one from this high, and let me just show you that real fast. From this peak right here to this peak right here to this peak right here, we came up and we closed above that level on Friday. Trying to hold above it here on Saturday. Currently on Saturday, we're up 0.36%. We were up on the Friday session, we were up by 1.5%. We were up over 2% at the highs. We didn't close there. But I have this other trend line I'm watching right here. And again, that's from here to here, and then directly above from where we're at right now. Now, we also have the resistance zone, which is directly overhead. I've talked about the 69,000 level as a target. Also told you we have the resistance zone right here. This is 70,000 right here, and the peak over here, the 71,000 area. So that's a resistance zone. Now we have another resistance zone if we go further back, the peak over here, which is slightly higher, and the peak over here, again at the 73,000 area, which I told you we were going to peak at that 73,000 area. The signals have been calling these turns back and forth. Again, back over here at 52,000, my signals, which are correct, turned bullish and told me rally up. I told you we were going to go back and test the 200 period. I told you I thought we would go above the 200 period. That's the black line right here. Get above it and go back and test this trend line, going back to 68,000 to the 69,000 area. I told you we could go up above 69,000. Why? Because 69,000 was the 2021 peak. Tested it 8 times over here, and every single time you tried to get above it, it failed. We could try to get above 69,000. If you do, again, you might still at the 68, 69,000 area, but directly overhead, we have the resistance zone 70,000 to 71,000. So we're watching these levels carefully as well. Now, after I called this bottom right here, I told you we'd either get a pullback and go or just start going. We just started going. We got this rising wedge. And we got above that 200 I was talking about, back above my 100 I talked about, and we formed negative diversions on indicators, like right here, and other indicators. And we saw the negative divergences form on the intraday charts in the 4-hour time frame. And again, I told you we were going to pull back, but I still thought, stuck to my guns, told you I still thought we'd go to 68, 69,000. I was correct. Up pulling back, and then we started to rally back up. We got rejection at the 200, and then we pulled back again. And I told you that if we started to sell off, which we did, I told you that once we started to sell off, the 4-hour chart can form a bullish divergence down here, and we could see a back up. We ended up forming a little bull flag pattern here, and we broke out back above the 200. I told you we got to get back above the 200. We did. I told you again we'd likely bounce here off the 50 and the 100. The pink line is the 100. The green line is the 50. I don't think the 50 is going to get back above the 200. They're closing in. It's closing in on it. It's turning back up. Guess is we're going to see a reversal before that happens and drop back below both of